In this episode of Restore It, we're going to restore the front and rear subframe assemblies from Antonio's BMW E30 M3. We took the car to my local garage and used their lift to make removing them a lot easier. The running gear on this car is in great condition compared to both of my UK E30s. This M3 has spent its whole life in hot and dry countries, starting in California, going to Kentucky, and then ending up in Spain, where it's going to stay for a very long time, which is good for keeping it as rust free as it's been. In this video, we're going to deal with everything except the limited slip differential. That's going to get a video of its own, which should be on the channel quite soon. Our first job was to disassemble the rear assembly and get it in the parts washer to see what we were really working with. After spending a while trying a few different ways to get this output shaft out of the trailing arm, we still had no luck, and decided to leave it for the garage as well as the hubs and protection plates. The rear assembly components were unsurprisingly in great condition, with only some surface rust and replaceable parts to deal with. If you're wondering how we put everything back together again to factory specifications, we used eManualOnline.com to download a factory workshop repair manual for the E30 M3 and use the information and diagrams in there to get the job done correctly and in good time. This is a PDF version of a factory-style workshop repair manual that a technician would use at a BMW dealership when they need to carry out work on a customer's car. They include step-by-step instructions with pictures and torque specs for every nut and bolt, as well as letting you know if you need any special tools or equipment. These manuals will show you how to do pretty much any job on your vehicle, and what's nice is that you can get a manual for almost any car in existence. So if you're keen to save money and work on your car yourself, but are worried you don't have the necessary information, click that link at the top of the video description and see if they have a factory manual for your car. These things are usually only around $20, but I'm going to leave a discount code down in the description for 20% off. These are downloadable manuals that you can put on your computer, print them off and have as many copies as you like forever. It really is invaluable information that will save you money and give you the confidence to do jobs like this yourself. Thanks to eManualOnline for the sponsor. Let's get back to the subframes. The same then went for the front subframe and suspension. A full strip down and clean so we could see the rust. With everything dismantled as much as we could, I got to work on removing the rust from all of the main parts, the subframes, the trailing arms, the struts, etc. Once all of the rust and some of the paint was removed, I treated the bare surfaces with a rust converter that also acts like a primer for paint. I did this to all of the main parts we were keeping. As for all of the little pieces holding everything together, they were washed and then taken back to bare metal on the wire wheel, which prepared them for electroplating in zinc. Whilst we waited 48 hours for the zinc plating to fully dry, I set about repainting all of the main components that were blasted and treated. This is what they looked like once the converter had fully dried after 3 hours. I could then paint them with Quartz black high build primer. I then sanded each piece with a 600 grit sanding pad to prepare them for the base coat. These front struts were in really good condition and only had a few rust spots on them. I had to remove these dust covers and mask off the shafts before I could key the old paint ready for the new stuff. Genuine E30 M3 hubs are notoriously expensive, at around $260 each, so Antonio asked me to clean up the old ones as best I could. As these parts were in such good condition, I didn't need to use hide build primer to fill a load of imperfections. Instead I could use a wet on wet non-sanding primer like this one from Standox. After a day and a bit of painting, we were pretty much ready to reassemble everything we could without the chassis being present. It was at the garage getting a new undercoating and the body prepped for a full respray. A lot of the smaller parts were restored, but with some of them it just made more sense to replace them with new ones, like these handbrake shoe springs and pins. All of the new bushings were greased and pressed in along with the new wheel bearings. Antonio discovered that E28 front hubs were exactly the same spec as original M3 ones, with the only difference being the ABS ring. They were less than half the price of the M3 ones, so he purchased two and asked me to swap over the ABS rings. With that done, I got to work on rebuilding the front struts. Lastly, I attached the protection covers and handbrake components to the trailing arms. We decided to leave the hubs for the garage as they have a huge press which makes light work of them. Finally, Antonio wanted to add a faster rack to his M3 and opted for an E46 ZHP gold label rack. I couldn't get this thing to fit to save my life, and neither could the garage when they were putting everything back on. So in the end we decided to put the original rack on for the time being whilst we work it out one way or another. You'll see the underside of the car in more detail once the whole car is finished, but for now this awful shot of the car under a cover will have to do. Join us next time when we continue to make really good progress on the M3. Remember to check out eManualOnline if you need a factory workshop repair manual. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.